I stayed quiet while my family stole 6 years of my life, because I needed them to believe I had no idea what they'd done. My name is Veronica Hayes. And the moment everything started to unravel wasn't when I discovered the truth. It was 3 years earlier, standing backstage at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center, gripping a note card so hard my fingers went numb. My startup was about to win Northeast Innovator of the Year. Investors from New York and California sat in the audience. Reporters too. Camera crews adjusted their lighting. This was the moment that was supposed to change everything. I checked my phone one last time. No missed calls. No texts. Just that red receipt from Mom, "We'll try to make it." They didn't try hard enough. Row 2 had 2 empty seats. 2 programs I'd reserved myself, folded neatly on the chairs. Untouched. When they called my name, the applause sounded like it was coming from underwater. I smiled because that's what winners do. But all I could see were those vacant seats where my parents should have been. Growing up in New Jersey, I learned my place early. My older brother Lucas, he was the athlete. Golden boy. Every game, every match, both parents in the stands. My younger sister Natalie, the miracle baby. Born premature, fought to survive. She could do no wrong. Me? I was the one who figured things out on her own. That phrase followed me everywhere. Through high school. Through my scholarship to Connecticut. Through the night Dad told me I should aim smaller instead of chasing what he called fantasy business ideas. So I aimed alone. I built my company from a studio apartment with a laptop I'd bought secondhand and a phone screen held together with tape. An enterprise logistics platform that saved mid-sized manufacturers millions. Nobody thought it would work. Nobody except me. That night in Boston, holding that award under those bright lights, I made a choice. I stopped waiting for them to care. Stopped calling. Stopped sending updates about clients in Illinois and Washington. Stopped mentioning the venture capitalists flying me to California like it was nothing. If they wanted silence, I'd give them silence. What I didn't know then, what I wouldn't understand until much later, was that my parents hadn't forgotten about me. They'd been waiting. Waiting for the exact right moment. And when Forbes published my name next to an $81 million valuation on a cold Tuesday morning 3 years later, they finally made their move. Mom called 11 minutes after the article went live. I stared at my phone, watching it buzz against my desk. Then it rang again. And again. When I finally answered, her voice cracked like she'd been holding her breath for years. "Veronica, we need to talk." She said my name like it belonged to her. Like she'd earned the right to say it. I should have hung up right there. But part of me, the part that still remembered being that kid in New Jersey, wanted to believe this was real. That was my first mistake. After Boston, I disappeared into my work. New York became my entire world. 18-hour days. Client meetings. Investor pitches. Building something nobody could take from me, or so I thought. Year 3, we landed our first major client in Illinois. A manufacturing company hemorrhaging money on inefficient logistics. Our platform saved them $2 million in the first quarter. Word spread. Washington clients followed. Then Texas. Then Florida. My phone stayed quiet. No congratulations from Mom. No curiosity from Dad. Lucas posted about his promotion on social media, 43 comments from family members. Natalie's engagement photos got hundreds of likes. My company hitting 10 million in revenue? Crickets. I told myself I didn't care. Told myself I'd moved past needing their approval. But every time I signed a new contract, every time another investor wired another round of funding, I'd glance at my phone. Nothing. One Thanksgiving, I think it was year 4, Dad called. Rare enough that I almost didn't answer. How's the business? He asked. Casual. Like we talked every week. Good. Really good. You keeping proper records? All the paperwork in order? Strange question. But I was just grateful he'd asked anything. Yeah, Dad. All handled. Good. That's good. Important to have everything documented properly. The call lasted maybe 6 minutes. I remembered feeling pathetic for how much those 6 minutes meant to me. I didn't understand why he was asking about paperwork. Not then. By year 5, venture capitalists were competing for meetings. A firm out of California offered to lead our Series B, $20 million. The kind of number that should have made me call home, share the news. I didn't. Instead, I focused on one strange interaction from a few months earlier. A potential investor from Colorado, older guy, quiet, careful with his questions. Most investors asked about growth projections, market size, competitive advantages. He asked something different. So, how long have you known about your father's involvement? I'd laughed. Thought he'd confused me with another founder. My father? He's not involved. Never has been. The investor's face did something subtle. Like he'd just confirmed a suspicion. He didn't push. Just nodded and moved on. I forgot about it. Or tried to. But sometimes late at night, staring at spreadsheets in my apartment, that question would float back. Why would he think Dad was involved? Where would he even get that idea? I pushed it away. Focused on what I could control. The company kept growing. Clients from Oregon, New Hampshire, Arizona. Every state felt like proof. Proof I'd done this without them. Proof I didn't need the family that never showed up. Then Forbes happened. Veronica Hayes's quiet climb, the founder behind an $81 million valuation no one saw coming. The article went live at 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Mom's first call came at 9:58 a.m. I let it ring out, watching my screen light up with her name. She called again at 10:01. Then 10:04. Then 10:09. Each time, I stared at that screen, finger hovering over the answer button. Part of me wanted to hear her voice. Wanted to believe that maybe, finally, they were proud. The other part knew better. That part remembered the empty seats in Boston. Remembered years of silence. Remembered that investors' question about Dad's involvement. At 10:15, she called again. This time, I answered. Veronica. Just my name. But the way Mom said it, voice shaking, breath catching, made my chest tighten. I saw the article, she continued. We both did. Your father and I, we're so proud. Proud. 3 years of silence, and now she was proud. That's nice, I said. Flat. Careful. I know we haven't been in touch much. At all. Pause. I could hear her breathing. You're right. And that's on us. But Veronica, we need to talk. Really talk. There are things. Her voice cracked. Things I need to explain. Things about the company. About your father. My pulse kicked up. What things? Not over the phone. Please. Can we meet? Just you and me? Every instinct screamed no. Hang up. Block the number. Go back to the life I'd built without them. But that question from the Colorado investor, it wouldn't stop echoing. Where? I heard myself ask. Princeton. There's that cafe we used to go to after your piano lessons. Remember? I remembered. Small corner table by the window. Hot chocolate that was always too hot. Mom reading magazines while I practiced scales in my head, fingers tapping against my thigh. Back when I still thought she noticed me. When? I asked. Thursday. 2 o'clock. 2 days away. Enough time to prepare. Or enough time to talk myself out of it. Fine. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. I know this seems sudden, but... Thursday. 2 o'clock. I hung up before she could say anything else. My apartment felt too quiet. I pulled up the Forbes article again, reading it for the 20th time. Studied my own face in the photo they'd used, conference shot from last year, professional smile, confident posture. I looked like someone who had it all figured out. I pulled out my laptop and did something I hadn't done in months. Searched my father's name along with my company name. Nothing came up. No connection. No articles mentioning him. Nothing that would explain why that investor thought Dad was involved. But Mom's voice on the phone, the shake in it, the urgency, that wasn't about pride. That was about something else. I opened my calendar. Blocked out Thursday afternoon. Then I opened a new document and started listing questions. Questions about paperwork. About that Thanksgiving call. About why they'd gone silent for 3 years and suddenly needed to talk now. The list got longer. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. I'm so glad you said yes. There's so much to explain. See you Thursday. I stared at that message until the screen went dark. What I didn't know yet, what I wouldn't realize until I saw what she brought to that cafe, was that Thursday wasn't about explanation. It was about damage control. And I was about to find out what they'd been hiding. The cafe looked exactly the same. Same corner table by the window. Same outdated wallpaper. Same smell of burnt coffee and vanilla syrup. Like the last 15 years had never happened. Mom was already there when I arrived. She'd aged, gray threading through her hair, lines around her eyes I didn't remember. She stood when she saw me, arms half reaching for a hug. I sat down instead. You look wonderful, she said. Successful. Just like I always knew you'd be. Always knew. The words tasted like lies. Let's skip this part, I said. Whatever you need to tell me, just tell me. Her smile faltered. She reached for her purse, expensive leather, new, and pulled out a manila envelope. Placed it on the table between us like it might explode. Before I show you this, I need you to understand something. Your father, he loves you. Everything he did because he was trying to protect you. My stomach dropped. Protect me from what? From yourself. From making mistakes. You were so young when you started that company. So stubborn. He just wanted to make sure. Show me what's in the envelope. Her hands shook as she slid it across the table. Inside was a single piece of paper. Official looking. Heavy stock. A share certificate with my company's name printed across the top in formal lettering. I almost laughed. What is this? You bought shares? When? We didn't buy them. I looked closer. Found the issue date. 6 years ago. Before my first funding round. Before anyone knew what I was building. Before the company was worth anything at all. I don't understand. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I think. Your father filed it. Registered ownership. He did it quietly, through some legal channels he knew. Put it in his name. The cafe noise faded. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. He put himself down as a shareholder. Without telling me. He was protecting. Stop saying that word. My voice came out sharper than I intended. Other customers glanced over. I didn't care. He forged ownership of my company? Not forged. It's legal. He made sure it was all legal. He didn't tell you because he knew you'd react like this. I stared at that certificate. At my company's name. At the date that proved my father had been hiding this for 6 years. 6 years of building. 6 years of sacrificing. 6 years of thinking it was mine. How much? I asked. What? How much does this certificate say he owns? Mom looked down. 15%. 15%. 15% of an $81 million valuation. $12 million. My father had secretly given himself $12 million worth of my company. There's more, Mom whispered. Things he did with those shares. Business decisions. He was trying to help, Veronica. You have to believe that. But I wasn't listening anymore. I was remembering. That Thanksgiving call. The questions about paperwork. The Colorado investor asking about Dad's involvement. They all knew. Everyone knew except me. I stood up. The chair scraped loud against the floor. Veronica, please. Where is he? What? Dad. Where is he right now? Home. He wanted to come, but I thought it would be better if. I was already walking toward the door. Mom called after me. He did it because he loves you. I didn't turn around. Because people who love you don't steal from you. And whatever my father had done, whatever else he'd hidden, I was about to find out. The drive to their house took 30 minutes. I don't remember any of it. Dad was in his office when I walked in. Didn't knock. Didn't announce myself. Just pushed the door open and dropped the certificate on his desk. He looked up. Saw the paper. Saw my face. Didn't even flinch. Your mother told you. Not a question. You stole from me. I protected you. He said it like he'd rehearsed. Like he'd been waiting years to deliver this line. You were 23 years old, Veronica. Reckless. You had no business experience, no guidance. Someone had to make sure you didn't destroy what you were building. By taking ownership without telling me. By making sure there were safeguards. Adult supervision. Adult supervision. Of my company. That I built. That I bled for. Where's the rest? I asked. His face shifted. Just slightly. What rest? The documents. The paperwork. Whatever else you've been hiding. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Or fear. I don't know what. Stop. I moved toward his desk. You didn't register secret ownership just to have it sit there. You did something with those shares. So where's the rest? He didn't answer. I walked around his desk. He stood up, blocking me. Veronica, you need to calm down. I pushed past him. Started opening drawers. Stop. You can't just. Third drawer down. A folder. Thick. My company's name written on the tab. I pulled it out. What I found inside made my hands go numb. Letters. Dozens of them. All on my father's personal letterhead. All referencing our company. All signed with his name, followed by founding partner. Founding partner. I'd founded the company alone in a studio apartment while he told me to aim smaller. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. Correspondence with potential buyers. Investment firms. Private equity groups. Each letter positioning Dad as a key stakeholder, someone whose approval mattered. One email was still open on his computer screen. I grabbed his mouse. Scrolled up. The sender was from Virginia. A private equity firm I'd never heard of. Subject line, acquisition discussion, final terms. The date was from last year. 8 months ago. I clicked it open. Mr. Hayes, we appreciate your willingness to discuss the controlling stake sale. As outlined in our previous conversation, we're prepared to offer $34 million for your 15% share plus acquisition rights to an additional 36% from existing shareholders, giving us majority control. Please review the attached term sheet. We'll need your signature by end of quarter to proceed. My vision blurred. He'd tried to sell. Not just his fake shares, he'd negotiated to sell control of my entire company. Behind me, Dad's voice came out quiet. I didn't sign it. I spun around. You negotiated it. I was exploring options. That's what shareholders do. You're not a shareholder. You forged documents and pretended to own something you didn't build. I have legal ownership, Veronica. Everything was filed properly. When? The word came out like a gunshot. When were you going to tell me you almost sold my company? He didn't answer. I turned back to the computer. Started scrolling through his sent folder. Found more emails. More conversations. Names I recognized. One name stopped me cold. Richard Chen. The Colorado investor. The one who'd asked about Dad's involvement. The email was from 14 months ago. Richard, thank you for your interest in the company. As Veronica's father and primary advisor, I want to ensure any investment partnership aligns with our long-term family vision. Let's schedule a call to discuss your firm's approach to founder equity protection. Primary advisor. Family vision. He'd contacted my investors. Positioned himself as a gatekeeper. I pulled out my phone. Found Richard Chen's number, still in my contacts from that meeting. Stepped out of the office into the hallway. Dad followed. What are you doing? I dialed. Richard answered on the second ring. Veronica? The question you asked me last year. About my father's involvement. Where did you hear he was involved? Pause. He reached out to our firm directly. Introduced himself as your business partner. Said he was vetting potential investors on your behalf. What did he tell you? That he held significant equity. That any deal would need his approval. Another pause. Veronica, is everything okay? I hung up. Dad stood in the hallway, face pale. How many? I asked. How many investors did you contact? I was protecting your interests. How many? 7. Maybe 8. I don't remember exactly. 8 investors thought my father was my business partner. 8 conversations where he'd positioned himself as someone with authority over my company. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Please come back. We can fix this as a family. Family. I looked at Dad. At the man who'd told me to aim smaller, then secretly tried to profit when I aimed higher anyway. Who else knows? I asked. What? Lucas. Natalie. Who else in this family knows what you did? His silence was the answer. They all knew. Mom called the next morning. Family dinner. Tonight. We need to talk this through together. I should have said no. Should have hung up and called a lawyer right then. But I needed to see their faces. Needed to know exactly how deep this went. What time? 6:30. Just us. The 5 of us. Like old times. Like old times. As if we'd ever been that kind of family. I arrived at 6:35. Late enough to make them wait. They were all there. Mom and Dad in the living room. Lucas on the couch, still wearing his work clothes, expensive suit, loosened tie. Natalie by the window, arms crossed. Nobody was eating. Thanks for coming, Dad said. Like I was a guest. Like this was his meeting to run. I sat in the chair across from him. Said nothing. Lucas spoke first. Look, we all know this got messy. But we're family. We can work through this. Work through what, exactly? I asked. Work through Dad forging ownership. Work through him trying to sell my company. He didn't forge anything, Lucas said. The paperwork was legal. Maybe the approach was wrong, but his intentions. Were you going to get a cut? Lucas stopped. What? The Virginia deal. The 34 million. Were you going to get a piece? His face flushed. That's not. Because I found another email. One where Dad mentioned discussing distribution with L&N once the deal closes. L&N, Lucas and Natalie. Natalie pushed off from the window. He was trying to help us all. Help yourselves to my work. Mom's voice cut through. Veronica, stop. Please. Your father made mistakes, yes. But he's willing to make this right. Dad leaned forward. Pulled papers from his briefcase. Set them on the coffee table. Transfer documents, he said. I'll sign the shares back to you. Full ownership. Everything returns to how you think it should be. I looked at the papers. Didn't touch them. What's the catch? No catch. Just one request. Sign a non-disclosure agreement. What happened stays in this family. No lawyers. No public mess. We handle this privately and move forward. There it was. You want me to stay quiet? I want us to protect each other, Dad said. Your company just hit the news. Investors are watching. Partners are watching. The last thing you need is a family scandal derailing everything you've built. Lucas nodded. He's right. Think about what this could do to your valuation if it gets out. To your reputation. My reputation. Not his. Mine. What about the relatives? I asked. The room went quiet. What relatives? Mom asked, but her voice was too careful. Aunt Patricia. Uncle Ron. The ones who gave Dad money, thinking they were investing in my company. Dad's jaw tightened. Natalie looked confused. What money? So she didn't know that part. Interesting. Dad took loans from family members, I said, watching each face. Told them it was seed funding for my startup. 50,000 from Patricia. 30 from Ron. None of it went to the company. Mom's hand went to her mouth. Lucas stared at Dad. Is that true? Dad didn't answer. I stood up. I'll think about your offer. Veronica, Mom started. I said I'll think about it. I walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. One question. When I won that award in Boston, the one you didn't show up for, where were you? Mom and Dad exchanged a glance. We had a conflict, Mom said. A prior commitment. You were meeting with the Virginia firm. Dad's face went white. I'd guessed. But his reaction confirmed it. They'd skipped my award ceremony to negotiate selling my company. I left without another word. In my car, I made 3 calls. First, forensic attorney. Second, private investigator. Third, every relative whose name I'd seen in those emails. By the time I got home, I had 5 voicemails. All from family. I deleted them without listening. Because they'd made their choice years ago. Now I was making mine. The forensic attorney's name was Diana Reeves. 47 years old. Former prosecutor. Cold eyes that missed nothing. She looked through the documents I'd brought for maybe 20 minutes. Didn't speak. Just read, occasionally making notes on a yellow legal pad. Finally, your father's clever. But not clever enough. She pointed to the share certificate. To a signature at the bottom. This was notarized. See the seal? I nodded. The notary listed here, I know her. She retired 4 years ago. Moved to Florida. But according to this document, she notarized your signature in New Jersey 6 years ago. My signature. I looked closer. There it was. My name, signed in handwriting that almost looked like mine. He forged my signature. On a document claiming you agreed to his equity stake. Which means the entire certificate is fraudulent. Diana's pen tapped against the page. We can void this. Easily. Relief flooded through me. Then anger. 6 years of this hanging over my company because of a forged signature. What about the money? I asked. The relatives he borrowed from? That's murkier. If he verbally told them it was for your company but never put it in writing, it's he said she said. We'd need proof. I pulled out my phone. I recorded conversations with 3 of them. They all confirm he said it was company investment. Diana smiled. Not warm. Predatory. Then we have fraud. Multiple counts. The private investigator I hired, Marcus Webb, found more. Dad had created an LLC 2 years ago. Listed himself as CEO. The company description, business consulting and venture advisory services. The only client listed, my company. He'd been writing off expenses. Trips to California, claimed they were for my business meetings. Dinners. Hotels. All tax deductions based on his fictional role as my consultant. He owes about $130,000 in back taxes, Marcus said. Maybe more. IRS would be very interested in this. I sat in my apartment, spreadsheets and documents covering every surface. 6 years of theft. 6 years of lies. And they thought an NDA and a quiet transfer would fix it. My phone buzzed. Lucas. We need to talk. Dad's willing to negotiate. Just call me back. I didn't call back. Instead, I made a different call. One I'd been considering for 3 days. Forbes wanted a follow-up interview. A deeper piece about my journey as a founder. I scheduled it for next week. At my parents' house. With my entire family present. The email I sent was simple. Hi Mom, Forbes wants to do a follow-up feature. A family-focused piece about the support system behind successful founders. I'd love for you, Dad, Lucas, and Natalie to be part of it. Next Friday, 2 p.m., at the house? It would mean everything to me. She responded in 4 minutes. Oh, Veronica. Yes. Absolutely. Your father will be so honored. We'll make sure everything looks perfect. Perfect. The week crawled by. Diana had the legal paperwork ready. Marcus had compiled his full investigation. Everything was organized into a folder on my laptop. I didn't sleep much. Thursday night, Natalie texted a photo. She'd bought a new dress for the interview. Navy blue, professional. The text said, so excited for tomorrow. Proud sister moment red heart. Lucas posted on social media, big day tomorrow, my brilliant sister's Forbes feature. Family first. Raising hands. 47 likes in an hour. Friday morning, I drove to New Jersey. The journalist, Catherine Park, met me outside my parents' house. Camera crew. Lighting equipment. The real deal. Thanks for agreeing to this format, Catherine said. Family narrative pieces perform really well. Readers love the human angle. Happy to do it, I said. We walked in together. Mom had cleaned everything. Fresh flowers on the coffee table. Photo albums arranged artfully. Pictures of us as kids displayed on the mantel, including several of me I'd never seen before. She must have pulled them from storage just for this. Dad wore a suit. Lucas too. Natalie had her hair done. They looked like a family from a catalog. Catherine set up her recording equipment while the camera crew arranged lighting. Mom offered coffee. Dad made small talk about the neighborhood. Everyone performed perfectly. Okay, Catherine said, settling into the armchair. Let's start. Veronica, when you think about building your company, what role did your family play? The camera's red light blinked on. Everyone leaned forward slightly, waiting for me to deliver the lines they expected. I looked at each of them. Mom, hands folded in her lap. Dad, confident smile. Lucas and Natalie, flanking them like bookends. My family, I said slowly, taught me something crucial about business. Mom nodded encouragingly. They taught me that the people closest to you can smile to your face while stealing everything you've built. The room froze. Catherine's pen stopped moving. I'm sorry, she said. I pulled out my laptop. Opened the folder. Turned the screen toward the camera. 3 years ago, I won Northeast Innovator of the Year in Boston. My parents didn't come. They told me they'd try. They didn't try hard enough. Veronica, Dad's voice came out strained. What they were actually doing that night was meeting with a private equity firm in Virginia. Discussing how to sell my company without my knowledge. I pulled up the first document. The forged share certificate. My father registered fraudulent ownership of my company 6 years ago. 15% equity. Worth about $12 million based on current valuation. The signature here, my signature, was forged. The notary listed retired 4 years before this was supposedly signed. Catherine was writing frantically now. The camera stayed on. Mom stood up. Turn that off. Turn the camera off. He used those fake shares as leverage, I continued. Contacted my investors. Positioned himself as my business partner. Nearly sold controlling interest to a firm I'd never heard of. I pulled up the next document. He also borrowed money from family members. My Aunt Patricia gave him $50,000, Uncle Ron gave $30,000, telling them it was seed funding for my company. None of that money reached my business. He kept it. Dad's face had gone gray. Lucas grabbed his phone. Natalie was crying. And when Forbes published my valuation 3 weeks ago, my mother called. Not to congratulate me. To do damage control. Because they realized I might actually find out what they'd done. I looked directly at the camera. So when people ask me about my support system, about the family behind my success, I tell them the truth. I built this alone. While the people who were supposed to support me were figuring out how to profit from my work. Catherine looked at my parents. Do you want to respond to these allegations? Dad stood. This interview is over. Get out of my house. It's on the record now, Catherine said quietly. All of it. I closed my laptop. Stood up. The full documentation will be available Monday, I told Catherine. Legal filings, investigator reports, everything. You'll have exclusive access. I walked to the door. Behind me, Mom's voice cracked. How could you do this to us? I stopped. Didn't turn around. You did this to yourselves. Outside, the November air felt clean. Catherine followed me to my car. That was. I've never seen anything like that. When will it publish? Sunday morning. Front page of the business section, guaranteed. I nodded. Got in my car. My phone was already ringing. Lucas. Then Natalie. Then Mom. I let them all go to voicemail. The article would go live in 48 hours. But the real fallout had already started. The article hit Sunday morning at 6 a.m. My phone started buzzing before I was fully awake. Founder exposes family fraud, how one woman's parents tried to steal her $81 million company. Catherine had done her job. Every document. Every detail. Photos of the forged certificate, the Virginia emails, the fake LLC. By 7 a.m., it was trending on 3 platforms. By 8, reporters were calling. By 9, the relatives had seen it. Aunt Patricia left a voicemail. Her voice shook. I trusted him. I gave him everything I'd saved. He said it was for you. He promised. She broke off crying. Uncle Ron's message was shorter. I've contacted the police. Filing a report today. Good. Lucas sent one text, you destroyed our family. Then blocked me. Natalie's message came an hour later, everyone at work saw it. I had to leave. Mom won't stop crying. Was this worth it? I didn't respond to either of them. The board meeting was scheduled for Monday. Emergency session. Diana had already filed to void the fraudulent shares. The documentation was airtight. Dad's name would be removed from every record by end of week. Monday afternoon, Mom called from a lawyer's office. Left a voicemail. The police want to talk to your father. About the money. About the forgery. Our lawyer says he could face charges. Her voice was hollow. How could you do this? He's your father. We're your family. Were. Past tense felt right. I was in San Diego when the final pieces fell into place. Hotel room overlooking the harbor. Laptop open. Legal team on video call. The shares are officially voided, Diana confirmed. Full ownership restored to you. His LLC is under investigation. IRS has opened an audit. And 3 relatives have filed fraud complaints. What's he looking at? I asked. If they press charges? 5 to 7 years. Maybe more depending on what else they find. I should have felt something. Guilt. Regret. Victory. Instead, I felt tired. The Virginia firm reached out, Diana continued. They want to clarify they never signed anything. They're cooperating with investigators. Good. After the call ended, I sat watching the water. Boats moving in and out. People living their lives, unaware that mine had just imploded and rebuilt itself in the span of 3 weeks. My phone buzzed. Mom again. I let it ring. Then came the text, please. He's sorry. We're all sorry. Can't we fix this? Fix. Like it was broken furniture. Like 6 years of theft and lies could be sanded down and refinished. I typed a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Finally sent, you should have thought about fixing things when you skipped my award ceremony to sell my company. Or when Dad forged my signature. Or any of the 1,000 moments you chose yourselves over me. This isn't something you fix. This is something you live with. She didn't respond. Wednesday morning, my company's valuation jumped to 93 million. Investors liked the story. The founder who fought back. The woman who refused to be stolen from. They called it inspiring. I called it surviving. Lucas's social media went dark. Natalie moved back home, her engagement ended, apparently. Couldn't handle the attention. Mom stopped calling. Dad was meeting with lawyers daily, preparing for what came next. And me? I sat in board meetings. Signed contracts. Built the company that was finally, legally, completely mine. Sometimes late at night, I'd think about that empty seat in Boston. About the girl who stood on that stage hoping her parents would show up. She'd wanted their pride so badly. Now she had something better. She had proof she never needed it. People ask if I regret it. If I wish I'd handled it quietly, kept the family intact. I tell them the truth. Some families aren't worth keeping intact. Some families are built on lies that need burning down so something real can grow. They wanted to know why I never warned them. Why I let them walk into that Forbes interview blind. I don't answer that question anymore. Because people who spend 6 years stealing from you don't deserve a warning. They deserve exactly what they get. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl everyone underestimated decides she's done being quiet. When that happens, the truth doesn't just come out. It levels everything in its path. My phone sits silent now. No more calls from Mom. No texts from Lucas or Natalie.